ready to start. Thank you.
All right. If it's hot, then we know that you are somewhere, right?
Right.
Good afternoon and welcome to the August 24th meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, which I now call to order. I would ask for the introductory recording, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the District Court.
Thank you. Now I would ask for a roll call of commissioners present, please. And remember to use your mics so we can be heard for the people online.
Certainly. Fox.
Here.
Dool is absent. McKay.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Bill Johnson.
Here.
Blick.
Here.
Nix.
Here.
Foster.
Here.
Warren.
Here.
Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson is absent. Miles is absent. Hartman is absent. Aldrich.
Here.
Williams Bay.
Here.
Madam Chair, I show 4 members absent and 10 members present.
Thank you. You have received the minutes of the August 10th, 2023 MAPC meeting. I note that Bill Johnson, Josh Blick, and Hugh Nix were absent for part or all of the meeting and will abstain from voting. Are there any corrections, changes, or could I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Did you have I have a motion from Commissioner McKay, a second from Commissioner Williams Bay. Any comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions, 3. Vote passes 10-0-3. 7-0-3. Math is not my strong point. You all know that, don't you? Thank you. Thank you for your kindness. Next, we will go through the agenda to identify if there's any items that can be voted on by consent, or if we will hear the items. The first is subdivision case 2022-57, located half-mile west of South 135th Street West. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Seeing none, does anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Seeing none, is anyone participating online who would like to hear this case? Subdivision 2022-57. We'll take that item on consent. Item 2.2, subdivision 22, number 70, located at the northeast corner of South Clifton and East 63rd Street South. Anyone in the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, anyone in the chambers who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, anyone participating virtually who would like to hear this case? Hearing none, 2.2 will be taken on consent. Item 2.3, subdivision 2023, number 29, YMC athletic fields located at West 21st North and west of 135th Street West. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Does anyone participating remotely want to hear this case? We can take this item on consent. I would like to make a note on this item. Is this the time? Simply that we've heard that the Y is very committed to public safety at this location, where they'll have two parts of their operation on either side of a highly trafficked arterial, which is 21st Street. And so I would just make a note that we have asked them to pay careful attention to the need for a pedestrian crosswalk and to plan for a time when that would be triggered or added. But we'll take item 2.3 on consent. Item 2.4, subdivision 2023 00032, Cypress Glen, located west side of South 167th Street and north of West Maple. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Seeing none, does anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Seeing none, anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? Hearing none.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Blick. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0. On to the vacation items. Item 3.1, vacation 2023-27. This is located generally at 167th Street West and north of US Highway 54. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Seeing none, anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? We'll take 3.1 on consent. Vacation item 3.2, vacation item 2023 or 28, located 2,750 feet west of East 34th Street North and North Webb Road. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Seeing none from either group, anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? We'll take item 3.2 on consent.
Motion to approve 3.1, 3.2 per staff's comments.
Motion from Commissioner Blick,
Second.
second from Commissioner Foster. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 10-0. Moving on to public hearing items, I want to note that item 4.1, conditional use case 2023 00019, has been withdrawn by the applicant. Would there happen to be anyone in chambers or online who was attending to speak on that case? Just please note that it has been withdrawn completely from consideration. Item 4.2, conditional use 2023 00033. I understand we have persons here who would like to hear this case. I do need to ask if the applicant or agent are available, please. 4.2, conditional use 2023, located at 1717 South Rock Road. Can you, okay, he is online. Thank you.
Yes,
We will-
this is off.
Okay, we're just confirming that you're present. We'll be back to that shortly. So
Okay.
please stay tuned. Next, item 4.3, conditional use 2023 00037, located at 167th Street, north of Highway 54. Anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Does anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Seeing none on either point, is anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? We will take item 4.3 on consent. Item 4.4, planned unit development 2023, number 8, located in the Moorings Second Edition at Meridian and 42nd Street. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Okay, question for staff. Let's see if we have anybody else. Does anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? You know, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that all we're doing is adding one lot to this PUD, and the PUD is remaining the same as was approved at a previous meeting.
PUD, it has to be heard.
Yeah, got that, but
Yep.
just want to make sure that the
Yep.
PUD stays the same.
Yep.
Thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4.5, zoning case 2023, number 44, located at 5950 South Midland Avenue. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Seeing none, does anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Seeing none, does anyone participating virtually want to hear this case? Hearing none, 4.5 will be on consent. Item 4.6, zoning case 2023, number 45, located on the east side of Florence Street and north of West Douglas Avenue. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? You'd like to hear it? Okay, we will hear 4.6. Item 4.7, zoning case 2023, number 46, located at 5355 North Seneca. Does anyone on the commission want to hear this case? Does anyone in chambers want to hear this case? Yes, okay, we will hear 4.7. Is the agent or applicant for 4.7 available? Okay, and is the agent or applicant for 4.6 available? That's, okay, very good, thank you. We will hear that case, and then item 4.8, we are recommending denial, so we'll hear item 4.8.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve items 4.3, 4.4, and 4.5.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Blick. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes 10-0. That brings us back to item 4.2, and Christina Reith will present the staff report. Christina?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is case number CON 2023-00033. The applicant is requesting a conditional use to permit an automated car wash on a property zoned LI Limited Industrial District. It is 0.9 acres in size, and it's located at 1717 South Rock Road. It is currently developed with a vacant commercial office building that will be demolished for the new development. The applicant proposes to build a 3,200 square foot building with 11 parking spaces and a dumpster enclosure. Paul, could we actually go to the site plan and discuss that a little bit? Thank you. As you can see where my mouse is here, the proposed car wash site plan shows that the vehicles will enter and exit the car wash at East Funston Street. Now, if you guys are curious as to what this is, where my mouse is, that is the drainage plume, and that was discussed with the applicant this morning. Car washes are permitted uses in the LI Limited Industrial District zoning, subject to the following supplementary use regulations of the Unified Zoning Code, which are listed in your staff report. The regulations state that car washes require conditional use approval when developed within 200 feet of residential zoning. The proposed site is within 200 feet of residential zoning on the east side across South Rock Road. The proposed site plan, as we see here, it adheres to all the required setback and parking requirements set forth by the Unified Zoning Code. And if we look at the site plan, the exit for the car wash tunnel faces south. And it also serves as a buffer between the vacuums directly west of the tunnel and the residential development to the east. Their orientation promotes compatibility with the residential development to the west by minimizing the primary generation of noise. There are no zoning cases associated with this property. The proposed car wash development is in conformance with the community investments plan. If we take a look at the 2035 Wichita Future Growth Concept Map, it identifies the subject property as appropriate for commercial development. It's also in conformance with the goals of the Wichita Places for People plan. Based on the information available at the time the staff report was prepared, it is recommended that the request be approved, subject to the conditions listed in your staff report. This recommendation is based on the golden rules. And at the time the staff report was prepared, staff did not receive any public comment on the requested conditional use. I actually received a phone call yesterday from one of the gentlemen who works at the medical facility next door, and they actually have no objections to the proposed car wash. Let's take a look at some of the site photos. This is looking west towards the site. Next picture. This is looking northwest towards the site. Next picture. This is looking east away from the site. Next picture. And this is looking south away from the site. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Aldrich?
There's only going to be one entrance and exit off East Funston Street.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, we would ask the agent or applicant, please, to state your name and address, and you'll have 10 minutes to tell us about your project.
Yes, my name is Andre Sutiano. I'm with GM Civil Engineering, 1101 Central Expressway, Suite 2145, Allen, Texas 75013. I'm here to answer any questions if there's any.
Nothing you want to tell us? Okay.
No, Christina, basically all
Okay.
over the projects.
All right. So we would hang tight because now we'll ask for public comment on this item. So in chambers who would like to speak on this item, please approach the podium. We would like your name and address, please, and you have 3 minutes to comment on the project.
My name is Clay Adair. I own the lot 7810 East Funston, directly west of this address. I have two concerns. My two concerns are, one, noise. We are a veterinary clinic and have a lot of anxious animals in the building. Some noise is acceptable. I just worry a little bit about how much noise will be generated. My other concern is just from experience, turning onto Rock from Funston is difficult, and with increased traffic, I'm just concerned about traffic onto Rock. That's my two concerns.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in chambers who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there anyone participating virtually who would like to speak on this item? Then I would ask for the agent or applicant to come back online, please, and respond to the concerns you've just heard.
Yes, so we will not generate any traffic on Rock Road because we do not have any driveway coming out from Rock Road. In fact, we remove one driveway. There are two existing on Funston, but we only use one of them. As far as noise-wise, the most of the noise will be coming from the blower at the exit tunnel, which is pointed to the south. So it will not affect on the east and the west. So it's going to be more to the south. And we are using a central vacuum, which will be enclosed with masonry structure. So that will contain the noise within the site.
Commissioner Blick, did you have a question for the agent?
Yes, on your site map, there's looks like a box that has a line that says 37 on it. Can you tell me what that is? It's right above the entrance to the north.
Let me open the site real quick.
And it might be on your screen right now.
Andre, if you can see my mouse, it's this box here, correct, Commissioner Blick?
Yes, correct.
Which one? Sorry, Christina.
Do you see where my mouse is moving?
Yes.
Yes. Could you explain that to him, please?
You mean the one with the hatching?
Yes.
That's a dumpster enclosure, and the box in front of it is the limits of the heavy-duty pavement. We usually have a thicker concrete pavement in front of the dumpster just because of the trucks, the heavy trucks going in and out to pick up the trash and to avoid any break in the concrete.
Gotcha. Thank you. I didn't know if it was a structure or not. It kind of threw me off because I seen you had an entrance and an exit and it looked like something was there. So thank you.
Do you agree with the staff comments, which include a recommendation about noise levels being in compliance with noise standards for our code? So do you agree with the staff comments and in specifically that one related to noise?
Is the question for me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I agree with the staff comments.
Any other questions for the agent at this time? Okay, hearing none. We'll bring this back to the commission. Did you have a comment, Commissioner Aldrich?
I got a question for staff, and I don't know if it's appropriate time.
Yeah, go ahead. More.
Do you think that this might be a good candidate to do some sort of signalization at the intersection there of Funston and South Rock Road?
Some kind of what? I'm sorry?
Lights, traffic lights. Because they're going to be vehicle traffic that's going to be turning left and right from there on to South Rock Road. And there's no controls right there.
Director Waddell has a comment, I believe.
Sure. Just two quick comments. Number one, we can take the minutes and discussion from this meeting and we can share that with the traffic engineering so that they can have that and see that as an identified spot for consideration. They'll want, before they do any signals, they'll want to look at warrants and the amount of traffic that's going through it and which direction it's going, et cetera. The other thing that I would just quickly point out is that if we go to the aerial, there is an alternative for folks rather than going out on Funston and going on to Rock Road, is if they go instead to the west when they're on Funston and then go to the next street, which is Longfellow, and then head north, they can get onto Harry, and from Harry make a right turn to get into a signalized intersection, which they can take onto Rock Road to head further north.
It's the way I do it.
Okay. And I should have asked this question, but at any time does the vet clinic have, I'm watching for a nod from our audience here. At any time are any of your animals held outside of the clinic or are they all inside? Okay, thank you. All right, I'll bring it back now for discussion of the commission. What's your pleasure?
Move to approve per staff comments.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Foster, a second from Commissioner McKay. All in favor, any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 10-0. Commission Director,
Just a quick.
Joe Johnson, have you joined us?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 11-0. And with your name, you'll also be notified when this goes to the next case where traffic will be addressed specifically. Any other thing? Very good. We'll move to the next case. Thank you. Item 4.6, Christina, you are back up.
This is case number zone 2023-00045. The applicant is requesting a zone change from SF5 single family residential to MF18 multifamily residential for multifamily development. The subject site is 0.34 acres in size and is generally located on the east side of North Florence Avenue within 200 feet north of West Douglas Avenue. The parcel is currently undeveloped. Paul, could please go to the site plan, the applicant proposed site plan? So when this application was first submitted, they intended to develop 2 triplexes on the site. However, the permitted density is 5.99 units. After speaking with the zoning administrator, it is firm at 5.99 units. And after speaking with the applicant, they intend to revise this site plan and develop 5 units on site to accommodate the permitted density and the required landscaping. The applicant will be required to submit a landscape plan prior to the issuance of building permits. This is because the property abuts single-family residential zoning on the north and south property lines. The applicant is required to plant 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees per 40 lineal feet of property per the Wichita Landscape Ordinance. Additional changes to this site plan may be required because of the required landscape buffer. The site is also required to have a landscape street yard with parking lot screening. And because of the compatibility height standards, the height limit will be proposed, or the proposed development will be limited to 35 feet. The character of the neighborhood is residential with commercial uses on the nearby arterial streets. There are no zoning cases associated with this property. The site has access to North Florence Avenue, which is a paved 2-way local street with no sidewalks. Municipal services such as water, stormwater, and sewer will need to be extended to accommodate the proposed development. I spoke with Sean Melias, the Chief Design Engineer for the City of Wichita, and he also requested to see a utility plan for the proposed development. The requested zone change is in conformance with the Community Investments Plan. The Wichita Future Growth Concept Map identifies the area as appropriate for residential development and use. Adding triplex residences to the neighborhood would increase the diversity of residence types and densities in this area, adhering to the component of this plan. The subject site is also in conformance with the Wichita Places for People Plan. The plan recommends infill development occur when the scale and intensity is compatible with the existing uses. The proposed MF18 zoning and triplex development are of a scale and intensity compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The subject property is adjacent to duplex property to the west. Thus, the requested zone change is consistent with the development in the area. Small scale infill development, like the requested multifamily residential use, can be supported by the current market of the area and build market support for larger development projects in the future. Based upon the information available prior to the public hearings, planning staff recommends that the request be approved. This recommendation is based on the golden rules. I'll just skip ahead to the last one here. At the time of the publication of the staff report, staff has not received any public comments regarding this case, and that still holds true as of this afternoon. Let's go ahead to the site photos, please. This is looking east towards the site. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site. Next slide, please. This is looking south away from the site. Next slide, please. And this is looking west towards the current duplex development. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Green?
Yeah, I don't know if Philip has had a chance to investigate further. The Colorado Street north of Douglas, if that is actually a street or if it's according to the mobile land records for the county, it does not show it as being a street. However, it calls out kind of maybe a dirt access road of some sort. And it appears to go to a property that's on the eastern portion of this requested zone change. On to the south of that, it shows a residence there and the address is 115. I'm assuming North Colorado. I don't even know if Colorado Street is a street at that point.
I did a record search on the Register of Deeds. Colorado Street is not platted in the Park Wild Edition, which is north of Douglas. It is platted, as you can see, south of Douglas. From what I can find on the mobile land or the Register of Deeds for lots 9 and 7, which are those two predominant lots at the corner of West and Douglas. The only thing that I found is the west 20 feet was dedicated as a sanitary sewer easement, but I did not find any dedications of right-of-way or access. There were a few rejected documents in the Register of Deeds. I don't know what those were. I can't see them. But as far as I can tell, it's not right-of-way. There's no apparent dedication of right-of-way or access easement. Unless there's some sort of private agreement that's just not recorded. As far as I can tell, it's technically not a street.
And I guess it begs the question, how do they access that that eastern portion or that eastern lot there? 115 shows that to be dirt kind of curving up into the the site that we are looking at to approve for rezoning, but there's no record of it even existing. So how do we deal with that? And how does the current property owner deal with that, with this zoning request and blocking that off, or requiring landscaping so that in fact there is no access into that eastern part of his lot?
Well, his site plan shows a hammerhead, so he's not showing access onto Colorado Street anyway. I don't think, I think the burden of proof would be on property developers to show that they have access to the east. They could not necessarily assume access onto private property onto the east unless they, again, I think the burden of proof would be on them to provide that documentation to show that Colorado Street is a public access point. Again, their site plan doesn't show that they're looking to use it as access. They're actually providing a hammerhead for a turnaround. So I'm not really sure if it really is a point of conversation, knowing they, for all intents and purposes, don't have access to it, and they have access off of Florence.
Commissioner Foster, you have a question?
Well, just a comment. There's another no access lot, 2 lots to the north of the parcel under consideration. I think the access problems for those isolated lots should have been taken care of whenever the lot was split or whenever this alley or street was vacated. I don't know that this landowner is responsible for trying to process access to lots that don't have access now. And if I'm wrong on that, I'd like somebody on staff to explain to me why I'm wrong.
If there's no barricade there, I guarantee you, people will encroach on somebody else's property.
I know, but they're apparently, the lot to the south is apparently getting out to the east and then south across a commercial property. At least from the aerial, that's what looks like happens. I have no idea how the 2 lots to the north is getting out. But again, I don't know that this property owner is responsible for solving their problems of access.
No, but if he's gonna be developing it right there, he should at least either put a hammerhead in right there or some sort of barrier that would prevent any of those residents, future residents, from driving down there, because that'd be encroaching on somebody else's property.
I did see where they, in fact, the full site plan does show a hammerhead there. Is that going to be curbed and guttered, or is that just going to be a flat surface?
Can we at this point have the applicant who's here come speak to the project, and maybe he'll have answers for us? The applicant or agent, will you please give us your name and address, and you have 10 minutes to tell us about your project, please.
Okay, my name is Oscar Vela. My address is 3303 South Blue Lake. I will explain a little to Cristina. I prefer to her speak than me. Lo que estoy tratando de hacer ahí, pues es hacerlos como los duplexes de apartamentos y pues van a tener el garage para estar manejando ahí.
El primer piso.
En el primer piso, y va a tener los cuartos arriba del segundo piso. Quiero tener todo el acceso que no esté complicado con los 20 pies que tiene en este lado para entrar, salir y que los dos carros estén saliendo.
He says that he may change his site plan to do duplexes or apartments, and the garage would be on the first floor and the living space would be on the top floor. And he would prefer to have that 20-foot drive to get in and out. I'll ask him about the curb and gutter question. Estamos preguntando si va a terminar plano o si van a tener un concreto.
Curva, sí, quiero hacer así, la curva.
Sí.
Y en estos dos lados y atrás plano.
Yeah. Oh, atrás de plano.
Ajá.
Okay. So he says he's going to leave it straight.
Can you repeat that, Christina?
Yeah, he said it's going to be plain, it's going to be straight. It's not going to be curbed and guttered.
No curb and gutter.
Unless there's a requirement for him to do that, then I can let him know about that.
Can you ask him how?
Hang on a second. Commissioner Aldridge has just started as well. Sorry, Mr. Commissioner Green, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we might be on the same page here. Can you ask him how does he intend to prevent any egress, ingress from to that alley or the easement right there? Is he planning on using that as a street to get in and out of his complex?
Él pregunta si va a prevenir el acceso de esta calle aquí, esa calle de Colorado, ¿ya hablamos?
Sí,
Si vas a prevenir acceso.
sí, de hecho está porque había gente ahí ya homeless tratando de vivir ahí y mi idea ya era tener una fence atrás y nomás tener el acceso por este lado y no por otro.
So he plans on having a fence on the south property line, and that is required because of screening. But he does plan on having a fence on the south property line to prevent access.
Okay, because I think that was the whole thing, to make sure there's some sort of a barrier, because otherwise you're going to have those residents, they're not going to care. They have no problems encroaching on somebody else's property.
He said there's concerns of homeless people in the property to the south. This one where my house is. ¿Tienen problemas con personas sin un hogar aquí?
Sí, aquí estaba viviendo gente.
Oh, okay.
Y esta persona ya estuvo.
Okay, so on the north. Okay, so there were problems with homeless people on the north side of this property as well.
Which is another of his reasons for planning a fence in that area. Am I understanding that correctly? Commissioner Green, did that answer the question you had, or you had additional comments?
Somewhat, but it still doesn't clear up the possibility of once he gets all of these units built, that they won't go east and then take that dirt path down to Douglas. I would almost request that we have, I know we have screening on the north and the south property line, but I would almost like to have some screening fence if possible on that east property line to eliminate that possibility of people going east and then south down to Douglas.
Commissioner Blick?
I have a question for you. So I'm looking at your site map and it looks like it's 50 feet wide. The street has a 6-foot side yard setback on the north side, a 6-foot side setback on the south side. So that would make that street 14 foot wide. And then the houses would be 30 foot wide also from north to south.
Okay.
Is that enough space to actually have a house? And are they going to be parking on the street, or are they actually going to be parking in the property or inside the house, like a garage?
If I can, Phil Meyer with Boffman Company. I'm going to say agent for the applicant, only because our office did this sketch for him. We didn't have anything to do with filing the zone change, but I am a little bit familiar with it. So this is fully intended to be a private driveway. We're not going to do curb and gutter, but going to do a concrete drive in there. We have no problem barricading the east or the south. I know he plans on doing a screening fence. And rather we do a little 4-foot barrier at the end of the street. Our intention is to be self-serving on our property. We don't want our residences sneaking out other ways, nor do we want the adjoining properties rolling onto this pavement and getting in and out. So the barrier question, he'd be fine doing something on the east property line to create a barrier, if you put it that way. You can make it a fence if you want. Commissioner Blick, I'm not, so our drive's 20 foot wide with that. So there's a 6-foot side yard setback, which is a building setback. So we're paving to the property line on the north line. We're honoring the side yard setback on the south line. I'm not sure if that answered your question or if I was tracking with you.
So are they going to be parking on the private drive, or are they going to be having like garage for each lot?
There's a garage.
Okay, garage for each lot. So the house is going to be, with the garage, is 30 foot from curb to the back sides. Okay, that's what I was just wondering.
Yeah, the unit's 24 foot wide.
And they're parking under it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Foster.
So is there, okay, first, can I ask that when staff prints out our handouts, that things that are oriented horizontally get oriented? We keep getting the right half cut off, so a lot of us don't know what's going on here. But it looks like the house immediately to the south, that blocked off no access lot at 115, apparently has a garage facing north, which means the only way they can get into and out of their garage is through this lot. Have you talked to these people at all?
I cannot answer that. Just
because granted, it's not your responsibility, but it looks like these people are going to be really stuck for a way to get in and out of their house once this development goes in.
Okay, apparently the house is abandoned, according to the applicant.
That's good.
Right. Commissioner Green, you have a question?
Yeah.
so, Commissioner Foster. Oscar is saying that the garage is facing west to Colorado Street, towards Colorado Street. Or it'd be east.
Yeah,
It's
actually,
facing-
yes.
It's facing to the east, the garage, he's saying. I've not seen this to answer that.
Yeah, the front porch is turning west.
This is why the homeless problem.
It's turning east. Yeah.
So the front porch is on the west side of the house and the garage is on the east side of the house. And I'm guessing.
Phil, when you guys did the concept plan for this, did you discover any street right of way to the east or Colorado, what would be considered Colorado Street. Did you discover anything? like
Based on
that?
county records, there was no right of way.
Yeah, that's what I found on the mobile land records through the
Yeah.
county GIS, that there was nothing there. They show Colorado kind of I guess, a little curved Colorado Street, but there is no right of way for that, which then I guess begs the question, how do they access this abandoned house? But it may not always be abandoned.
I don't know if there's something grandfathered in or an access easement through the commercial law. We've not researched any of the title.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant, agent, or yes, Director Wadle?
Yeah, I would just like to share that with the questions that have come up about Colorado, whenever we have an oddity that shows up like this, if we've done our research and it checks out that maybe it's not shown according to what our research is showing, we will refer that to GIS, both at the city and the county level. So they can address that and look into it further. Unfortunately, that doesn't help you with your deliberations today, but I just want to let you know, we'll do some follow-up.
So that would be addressed prior to the final plat, et cetera.
Well, in this case, it's my understanding the property is already platted.
Okay.
So it's more just a matter of cleaning up, make sure that the GIS is accurately reflecting the records. Or if they find that there's a record that shows something different, making sure that that's more widely available. But from everything that we've seen and talked about so far, it's my belief personally that that it doesn't appear that there's any access there. So it's likely a GIS error.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I guess the only comment I have is appreciate the fact that there will be screening to the south, and then there'll also be some sort of a barrier on the east property line separating this gentleman's property and the general commercial property to the east.
Okay. Any Commissioner McKay?
Should the barrier be part of the requirement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have not called for public testimony yet. So any other questions at this time? Hang on tight, applicant, agent. Thank you, Phil, for filling in. Is there anyone in chambers who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, is there anyone participating virtually who would like to speak on this item? Okay. If we request a barrier on the end of, yes?
I think I may be going the same direction
Okay,
you were.
I was just gonna ask, would the applicant be, would accept the directive to add a barrier on the, now I'm confused, east end of the property? All right, thank you. And Commissioner or Director Wadle?
And to that end, if it's the commission's wish to require that barrier, what I would advise is that as part of the motion, you would want to indicate that that would be a protective overlay, because that would be the mechanism to apply that additional restriction on the property.
Okay. Thank you. Now this brings it back to the commission. Further discussion, or is somebody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve, subject to staff comments, adding also the overlay, protective overlay, so that will protect having a barricade at the east end of the said property.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner McKay with a second from Commissioner Aldrich. Any further discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
11-0.
Can I have one question? I have a question with staff.
Yes, Commissioner McKay.
On this, because of that one house to the south, we were talking about so much, I would imagine probably what happened, they just using whatever extra way to get in and out of that. I'm asking, somebody mentioned egress and ingress a while ago for that house. That can't be tied to this application. That's all I was want to make sure that everybody knew that that's up. Okay.
For the folks who are joining remotely, the answer was no, it cannot be tied to this
But I just want to
application.
make sure of the record that it's not going to be required.
Okay, thank you. Next case, 4.7, Mamita is our staff report. Will you come forward, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Momita Kundu from the Planning Department. I will be presenting.
Down, please. I'm not hearing you through the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Momita Kundu from Planning. I would be presenting zoning case 2023-00046. The applicant is requesting a zone change from SF5 single family residential to TF3 two family residential and LC limited commercial zoning. The site is located at 5355 North Seneca Street. Staff is recommending approval of this request. Can we go to the aerial map right now? The subject site is currently vacant. The applicant proposes to develop 3 duplexes on the approximately 1.86 acres of that and unspecified commercial development on 0.74 acres of the subject site. If you move to the zoning map again, the properties to the north and northeast are zoned limited commercial and have a vehicle repair shop and warehouses built on them. Properties to the east are zoned limited commercial and has a vacant street mall. The subject site also abuts an SF5 single family residential district to the east and developed with a church and a single family dwelling. To the west, the property abuts to the single family residential district. The lots to the northwest are developed with a single family dwellings, and the rest of the west side of the subject site abuts to a park. To the south, it abuts to a single family residential district developed with single family dwellings. The site plan does not show any screening or landscaping. If we move to the site plan, please. Thank you. The site plan does not show any screening or landscaping on it. The portion of the site proposed to be LC zoning needs to comply with the screening and landscaping requirements of the Unified Zoning Code and Landscape Code. A solid screening fence and a landscape buffer are required along the west and south property lines of the proposed LC zoning because it abuts to the residential districts. A landscape street yard and a parking lot screening are required along the West 53rd Street because it is an arterial street. Municipal water is available on the site. The site does not have an access to municipal sanitary sewer. Development can be permitted with on-site sewer systems if installed accordance with the applicable regulations. Of the 3 zoning lots, the zoning lot to the north is unplatted, which is proposed to be LC zoning. The other 2 lots have been platted in 1925. There have been no previous zoning cases on this site. If you move to the community investment plan slide. The proposed TF3 duplex zoning is new to the area, but conforms to the Wichita-Sedgwick County's comprehensive plan. The plan's future growth concept map depicts that the subject site and the area it is located in as commercial, where diverse commercial development is in close proximity to and potentially mixed with the residential usage. The proposed LC zoning site is also in conformance with the comprehensive plan's designation of commercial. The pedestrian access to and from the proposed TF3 portion of the site to the proposed LC portion of the site is encouraged. Based upon the information available at the time of the staff report, the staff recommends approval of the requested TF3 and LC zoning. At the time of publication of the staff report, the staff has received 2 phone calls, one inquiring about the details of the project and the other one opposing the zone change. Staff also has received a 3rd public comment through email opposing the rezoning request, and the email has been forwarded to the commissioners previously. The case will be heard at the DAB 6 on September 11, 2023. And let's go through the site photos one by one. The site photos, please. Thank you. Looking north from the south of the site. Next. Looking south from north towards the site, and you can see the single family dwellings abutting the site on the east. Next. Looking west from north towards the site. Next. Looking northwest towards the site. So this is the site abutting to the park to the west. Next. Looking north away from the site. Next. Looking northeast away from the site. Next. Looking from southwest away from the site. And with this, I'll take on the questions that you have for this time.
Any staff questions? Commissioner McKay?
Yes, between the park area on the west of the TF, the apartments, is that going to be required a fence to be put in there between the two?
As this is a residential zoning, they don't need any screening between the park
I
and the
understand that, but
TF3.
it's a park.
Yes, and it doesn't need a screening between the park and the residential zoning. So the park will be abutting the TF3 zoning, which is a residential zoning, and it doesn't need any additional screening to it.
Commissioner Nix. All white guys look like that. Not going there. Go ahead, Commissioner Nix.
We referred to a park, the park. Is it a city-owned park?
That's further towards the west. There's the Riverview Park, if I remember the name correctly. But this the strip of land which abuts the property is, I guess it's owned by the city, but it's not part of the Riverview Park. But it has been used as a part of the park.
But the park itself, is it owned by the city?
Yes.
And it's not activated. In other words, there's not a lot of park equipment or things.
The part
Is that
abutting
accurate?
immediately to the TF3 zone is not specified to be a part of that city park.
Commissioner Aldrich?
Excuse me?
Local residents actually use that for.
It has soccer fields and basketball courts.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a fence. It's an old fence, I guess, when it was a school, but there is a fence that's up between the property that they're utilizing as a park, even though it's not a park, and the TF3 property.
Director Wadle.
Sure. I think I can shed a little bit of light. I think everyone who's discussed so far is correct. This is a little bit of an awkward situation, but in GIS, as Momita has alluded to, the subject site immediately abuts a city-owned property. In GIS, the western 3/4 of that property is identified as a park. It has the green overlay on it. The one small strip, about a quarter of that park, immediately abutting this property is not identified as a park, but is owned by the city. Now, that could simply be a matter of, again, GIS and mapping not being in sync with how it's used, but that's just how it's showing up. So she is accurately describing it. However, I believe it's also being accurately described in terms of how it's being used.
Okay, Commissioner Aldrich, you had a comment.
Yeah, for staff, does that fall under when the park board used to have their own authority on the park before it got taken away from them years ago?
Sure, that depends on who is listed as the owner. If the owner of the property is listed as the Board of Park Commissioners, then it was owned prior to the city kind of merging the park board into the city of Wichita. in this case, I am seeing that the owner is listed as the city of Wichita. So no, it doesn't appear to have been that way.
Okay, thank you.
As far as my conversation with the park authorities go, park departments go, they were acquired at different timings. So that's why they show different parcels, but they are used as a part of the park currently, but they are not shown in GIS as of yet as the same park.
So it does sound like this is another GIS update potentially. Okay. Any other questions for staff at this point? All right, thanks, Mamita. We would now call for the applicant or agent to come forward, please, and tell us about this project.
Good afternoon, Phil Meyer with Baughman Company, agent for the applicant. With me today is Joe Samia, who's a contract purchaser planning to develop this site. So this property, we're looking at doing 3 duplex units, 1 commercial building. I'm going to say 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. Joe tells me it's going to be 5,000 square feet. I don't doubt that, but we also know that none of this property has sanitary sewer. So everything's got to be dealt with on site. Before he put this under contract, he met with Tim Wagner, MAPC, went over the sewer system that was necessary for the duplexes. That's why I tell you we're going to have 3, because that's all we can fit on there. And then the commercial, his intent is to run one of his smaller construction companies out of that. It will be an office and construction in material inside the building, 1 restroom, kitchenette sink, not a lot of sewage. And we understand the restrictions that come with on-site. So my comment to the planning commission is this property and limited commercial is going to be very limited in what can actually develop there, because the on-site sewer system will determine the intensity of commercial that can happen on this property. And it will not be very intense commercial until sewer comes at a later date, if and when it does. With that, I'll stop there, answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Aldrich has a question for you.
Yeah, on the LC portion, would there be any outdoor storage?
There would be a little bit, but in LC you're limited to how much. And so he may not have any plans to put any out there, but in limited commercial, I think you're limited to, I want to say 5%, but you cannot have very much stuff stored outside.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the agent? Commissioner Nix?
So at some point in time, we had sewer there, right? I mean, it's just
No.
been abandoned.
That's an old 259 school, and I don't know that, I assumed it had an on-site sewer system. There are no homes out here or no commercial buildings that have sewer.
So when there was a school, there's no on-site sewer? What
Had to have on-site sewer system.
had to, yeah.
Yes, sir.
What happened to it?
Okay, no on-site or has to have on-site sewer, non-existing. Any other questions for the applicant agent? Alrighty. Stay tuned. Now anyone in chambers who would like to speak on this application? Is there anyone participating virtually who would like to speak on this application?
Yes. Hi.
Okay, well, please state your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes, please, to make your comments.
Hi, I'm John Sullivan. I live at 5240 North Sullivan Road, which is southwest of the lot. That area is not a dual or duplex area. It's not a multifamily area. It's all single family units. I don't think that rezoning it to multifamily is really serving the purpose of that community. It's kind of changing, I guess, the general vibe of that area, especially when it backs up to an open field like that. It's not something that I think a lot of people are going to feel comfortable using if all of a sudden there's a couple duplexes right there with no barrier or anything like that. I know my neighbors, a few of them didn't get any notification about this rezoning. It seems I'm the only one. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if this To me, it feels like it's being shoved through a little bit.
Any other comments you would like to make at this point? We got a name and address. Yes, Commissioner Nix.
What was his address?
Can you give us your address again, please?
5240 North Sullivan.
And can we get a pointer where that would be on this map?
The 2-acre lot southwest of just south of that open field.
Okay, with that, so is that within the notification area? Okay, so we will double, you did receive notification, but you're saying some of your neighbors did not. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and are you aware of the district advisory board meetings that are held where these items are also heard?
No.
Okay, we'll make sure that we get that information to you as well. Any other questions for the speaker, Commissioner McKay? Okay. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else participating virtually who would like to speak on this item? Okay. Hearing none.
About the notification, if you look, where he's at is a large lot. Some of these are acreage lots to the south of there, all down Sullivan, back into the river.
Almost all of these are acreage lots in this area.
So
okay, and
that's they may not have got the notification.
Yeah. Staff commission or Philip, will you speak to the notification process for this project?
Brief analysis buffer. It would have been a 350-foot radius because it is over 1 acre. And a 350-foot radius, Mr. Sullivan's property is noticed, but based on the size of those properties to the south and southwest, the 350-foot buffer likely did not notify properties south of his. His property and the one at 52nd and Seneca, directly south of the property, were in the notification area, but the properties south of those likely did not due to the size of the properties.
Okay, and then the other consideration would be if any of those single family homes is a rental, then the notification would have gone to an owner, not the occupant. So that might be the other situation there. Okay. Will the applicant please return now you have 2 minutes for a response to
Is there anybody else? Do we need to call if there's any other comments?
Was there anyone else virtually who wanted to comment on this item? Okay. Phil, please proceed.
Back up. So I did verify the ownership list while we were talking. It was 350-foot radius that was swung around there. I see 1 or 2 addresses that are not local. So that's as far as I can go on answering that. I do think the duplexes at this location will fit in. I know it's a change because it's been an open field. It looks like part of the park, but it's been in private ownership it's never been part of the park system. The contract purchaser did let me know that he intends to fence the rear of the property line. So FYI to planning commissioners are asking that. He does intend to fence that line himself. With that, I'll stand for any questions you may have of me.
Any further questions? All right, thank you.
I mean,
I'm sorry, your opportunity to speak is now over, so the matter is back in the hands of the commission. I would again encourage you to learn about the DAB meeting, the District Advisory Board for your area, so that you can speak there. Our purpose here is to make a determination if it's appropriate for multifamily residential and the limited commercial as presented. All right, back to the commission. What would be
Mr.
your?
Chairman, I move to approve for staff comments with the agreement the owner has established that he's going to put a fence around it.
Second.
I have a motion. I'm going to say I heard Commissioner Warren first. Yes.
Just a quick clarification on that one. When you mention agreement, Mr. Johnson, is your desire to have a requirement as part of the zoning that the fence would be installed, or is it just that you are stating that it's your understanding and you hope that they put in the fence?
The latter.
So we're noting that the applicant is planning to put the fence so that we've addressed that. Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Johnson, second from Commissioner Warren. Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passes 11-0. Sorry, we'll move to item 4.8, zoning case 2023 number 47, and Christina is back up for the staff presentation.
Christina Reith, everyone with planning staff. The applicant is requesting a zone change for ZON 2023-00047 from SF5 and TF3 to GC General Commercial District. This property is a little over a half acre in size and located at 721 North Hoover Avenue. The subject site is currently developed with a vacant residential dwelling. The applicant is filing the zone change request for the expansion of the existing automotive repair, body shop facility, and roofing services. The applicant already owns the 2 properties directly south of the subject site, as you can see in pink here, which are on and adjacent to the northwest corner of North Hoover Avenue and West Central Avenue. They are developed with a roofing company and an automotive repair and sales facility. Paul, could we please go to the site plan, please? Or one of the site plans. There we go. According to the site plan, the applicant plans to construct 2 new buildings on the property. Could we go to the next site plan that's on the PowerPoint? Thank you. The existing approach on the southern end of the property will be removed and replaced with another approach that it is in the middle of the subject site. Moving the driveway to this location, staff feels, may increase negative impacts associated with commercial development on the adjacent residential properties. The new drive for the proposed development will be across the street from 2 residential properties. The character of this neighborhood is residential with commercial development on or near the arterial street. Property to the north is zoned SF5 single-family residential district and developed with a single-family dwelling. Property to the south is owned by the applicant and zoned GC General Commercial District with a protective overlay. It is developed with a roofing and auto body facility. Properties to the east are zoned TF3 2-family residential district and SF5 single-family residential district and are developed with single-family residences. Directly west of the subject site is Interstate 235. There are no zoning cases associated with this property. The requested zone change is not in conformance with the community investments plan. The 2035 future growth concept map recommends a subject site as appropriate for residential uses. Commercial development is thus not an appropriate use for this land. The general development of the community investments plan states that major commercial and employment centers should be located at intersections of arterial streets and along highways and commercial corridors. The requested zone change and proposed use is along a local residential street. When we look at the land use compatibility guidelines, they state that higher intensity development should be discouraged from locating in areas of existing lower intensity development, particularly established low density residential areas. The requested zone change is proposing a high intensity general commercial development in an established low density residential area. The requested zone change is not in conformance with the goals of the Wichita Places for People plan. It is not in conformance with Strategy 6, which states that it should encourage infill and redevelopment that is contextual to the environment in which it is occurring. The context of the environment is mostly residential, with the higher intensity commercial uses along the Central Avenue corridor. The subject property is located with an area identified as an area of opportunity. The proposed use primarily focuses on automobiles and does not emphasize walkability in the area. The proposed use also continues a disconnected development pattern by promoting commercial development and increased vehicular traffic to encroach into a residential neighborhood. Based on the information available prior to the public hearings, planning staff recommends the zone change request be denied. Because of the zoning, uses, and character of the neighborhood, commercial zoning encroaching into a residential neighborhood is not an appropriate use of the land. The requested zone change may alter the uses and character of the neighborhood, and the intended uses on the property may bring light pollution, additional traffic, fumes, and odor to a residential neighborhood. Approval of this application may result in light pollution, fumes, odor in a residential neighborhood due to the intensity of uses in the requested zone change. Denial may result in the loss of opportunity enjoyment for the applicant. As I mentioned earlier, the requested zoning is not in conformance with the Community Investments Plan or the Wichita Places for People Plan. I did receive one phone call from a gentleman who was curious about the letter that he received in the mail. But other than that, I have not received any comments from the public. Should the MAPC find that the conditional or that the zone change be approved, it is recommended that the MAPC adopt alternative findings supporting the recommendation. Staff recommends a protective overlay should the requested zone change be approved. So permitted uses are restricted to those by right in the NR Neighborhood Retail District, plus vehicle repair general, vehicle repair limited, and construction sales and service. And the reason that we're thinking about this is because we want it to be more of a transition between the intense commercial development at the bottom and the residential uses at the top. Of all vehicles that are waiting repair for body and paint, mechanical and electrical or similar repair are to be screened from the ground view from abutting and adjoining properties and from abutting streets. Signs are restricted to those permitted in the NR Neighborhood Retail District. The area where vehicles are stored waiting for repair shall be paved. The paint and body shop shall comply with all regulations. All work on vehicles must be performed in an enclosed space near the western property line. A site plan shall be provided for review and final approval within 60 days of approval by the governing body. And landscaping shall be 1.5 times the landscape ordinance, including a 10-foot wide landscape buffer provided along the north and east sides of the site. If the Planning Commission recommends that vehicle and equipment sales is permitted, it is recommended that they be subject to the supplementary use regulations of the Unified Zoning Code. Let's go ahead to the site photos, please. This is looking west towards the subject site. As you can see, there is a vacant residential dwelling. Next slide, please. This is looking north away from the site. You can see the single family houses down this street. Next slide, please. This is looking east away from the site. This is, approximately 100 feet away from the subject site. Next slide, please. This is looking south away from the site towards Central Avenue. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Warren.
Christine, you know how long the property that's on we're looking at it has been vacant?
I don't have that information.
Any other questions? Commissioner Williams, Beta, do you have a question?
Yes. Is the resident that you indicate in the packet, is that occupied or is that vacant?
Which resident, sorry?
The one that you showed on the slide there.
Oh, I believe she's actually online to speak on this item because I've been in conversation with her before for a different zoning case.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. We would then ask for the applicant or agent to come forward, and you have 10 minutes to tell us about your plans here.
Phil Meyer with Bachman Company, agent for the applicant. 315 Ellis is my address. So I understand, and this is my personal opinion on this one, I think staff is opposed to this because we're encroaching into the neighborhood, kind of a principal issue from their standpoint that we shouldn't be encroaching into residential neighborhoods. I would point out to the Planning Commission that this is a unique situation for that argument. And if you drive along Central, you use the entrance ramp onto 235, you drive up and down 235. There's an old car wash sitting back here that has been an eyesore to this community for 30 years. That property has not been very well taken care of. Now, the owner of the property today, I think, has done a great job of cleaning up the front of this and runs his automotive sales business on the front of this. He also owns and operates this facility on this side. Has done a nice job of cleaning this stuff up. This is kind of his next step to clean this up. And he's looking to expand this facility and clean up that old car wash, tear it down, put something new in there. And I also want to talk about, from 235, understand our desire to protect the residents. I'm not downplaying that. We have how many citizens that drive up and down this highway that look at what this property looks like today, and we have a chance to clean it up if you're willing to approve this zone change today. So if I could have you go back to the site plan that the architect provided with our submittal. And so when this site plan pops up, this line right here is the line of the existing zoning. So that car wash is sitting in here. And so we're doing a new building here that will be part of the automotive operation. And this is a construction service building that would be back here. Yes, we are asking to move this driveway. When we move it up here, we put it on the common property line. So lights and stuff are running down the property line. This is pretty close to that driveway here. We do have the east line of this property fenced today. We will be doing a fence along here. We will be doing a fence or wall along the north property line, and we plan on fencing the west property line when we do this. We're in agreement, or for the most part. So I'm gonna go to page 4, the protective overlay, the 8 items that staff recommends if Planning Commission decides to approve this. I'm good with 2 through 7. So number 1 limits it to neighborhood retail and then allows us the 3 operations we want to do, which is vehicle repair general, vehicle repair limited, construction sales and service. I can live with that. I'm gonna tell Planning Commission that. So if Planning Commission wants to approve it subject to that, I'm good with that. I've also put together a list of, if we leave it GC, here's some uses that we could eliminate with the protective overlay. Cemetery, all the recycling uses, reverse vending, animal care general, car washes, event centers, farmers art market, kennels, boarding, recreational, indoor, outdoor. So we can, asphalt plants, we can take away the heavy uses. So if you'd like to approve it with, I can turn this into staff today, approve it with GC and this list of potential heavy uses removed from the GC. I'm good with that. If you want to approve it with the neighborhood retail and those 3 uses, we can live with that because it fits what we're doing today. Down the road, I don't know. Item 8, I would really like you to approve that with an 8-foot landscape buffer instead of a 10-foot landscape buffer. If you look at the site plan here, we've got an 8-foot buffer. That 2-foot really hurts the circulation around this site. If you want to approve it with a 10, I'll take that, but it's going to take an adjustment to the plans that we're proposing to build because that drive just isn't adequate if I pull 2 more foot out of it. But we do have a row of shrubs here. We will put a screening fence along the east side. I would like your approval to have the flexibility that if we get permission from the neighbor to the north, that we can do our landscape and buffering on their property. And if we can't get permission from the neighbor to the north, we will revise this site plan to put an 8 or 10-foot buffer along our north property line. With that, I will stop and answer any questions Planning Commission may have.
Commissioner Aldrich.
Yeah, I used to actually wash my cars over there at one time, and it's a shame that the applicant hasn't tore that down, and he's had many opportunities to do that. It's been anywhere from car storage to everything else in there, and I agree it is an eyesore, but it's a shame that wasn't addressed years ago. And I know a lot of the neighborhood association over there has tried to do a lot of things to help improve the neighborhood and everything else on the residential end. And me personally, I just don't think that this is a good fit. I think staff comments and recommendations hold true. And I also think that with the traffic issues right now that are facing to getting on Central off from Hoover and turning in, making your left-hand turn as you're traveling east on there is a nightmare right now. And I think that you're just going to add to more traffic congestion right there if this is approved.
Commissioner Blick.
Can you go back to the aerial that had the 235? Question I have for you, Phil, is I'm looking to the just as for observation, to the west of 235, you'll see it's commercial property all the way along that whole side. And on the west of that street is actually residential. So I can kind of see how this would actually kind of line up on both sides of the highway. And it has residential on the east side and on the west side, on the other side of Gilda Street. So it kind of blends in, following along that highway with commercial. I know it's getting into the neighborhood and especially with the neighborhood associations and stuff, but I see that if there's a way to fix this and clean it and it's an abandoned house also, I could definitely see that it could actually work. But when I was looking at the other side and looking at that area, I can see that Gilda is almost identical to just the flip on the other side of 235.
Commissioner Nix.
So in your estimation, how much additional traffic do you think this facility would generate? It's not high in.
It's not a high traffic generator. The construction building is going to be a roofing company, actually operates out of this facility over here now. So I don't know that it's going to generate a lot of additional traffic. The proposed building that we're doing here is for the automotive repair and it's for commercial use. It's, I say, a minimal amount of traffic that comes in and out of those compared to restaurants or other commercial activities.
If the landscape buffer were narrowed, does that mean that within that arena, you could have your internal traffic there versus going out to the street and up and over? I mean, is that why you want more room within the space?
It allows them to come back and forth inside of the facility. It would be nice to have the driveway that they're proposing back here. That'll be up to Planning Commission. I mean, it's a two-pronged step. You guys can eliminate that driveway if you want to get this approved. Then we'll have to figure out how they're going to circulate interior. And then there's also the traffic engineer that has to issue the driveway permit. So it's
okay. Thank you.
Process for me.
Director Wadle.
Yeah, I would just add that in talking with staff, we don't have a lot of heartburn about the 10 feet to 8 feet. The reason why it was recommended at 10 feet is because that's consistent with the zoning to the south, immediately to the south of the subject site.
Thank you. Other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Green.
I guess I kind of have to agree with Commissioner Blick on this. The limited commercial or general commercial, sorry, says that it needs to be adjacent to arterial or highway. And the way I see this property, the entire back lot line of this property is adjacent to highway. I don't know how much more you could have where it meets the requirement for general commercial on this. I just don't see it to be that much of a stretch to go and approve this as requested to the north line with general commercial. Or option one of the protective overlay that the applicant has agreed to go with on the neighborhood retail district and restrict it to just the items that they want.
Okay. Any other comments at this point? Let's move on then to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone in chambers? I see who would like to speak on this item. I can't see through the pillar. Yes, okay. Please, I thought there was someone still here. If you please go to the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to comment on this project, please.
John Eckler. I live at 726 North Hoover, which is be northeast of this. And yeah, I'll say that Global, they do a good job with their grass and everything over there. But my biggest worry,
Could you speak a little closer to the microphone, please? Old people here. Thank you.
Well, my biggest worry is, they've done a lot of development already down Hoover, and the traffic is, it's pretty terrible now. It's almost a commercial street. If you did numbers on that, it's, they've tried to slow down some of the truck traffic, but it's more of a bypass, plus all the other apartments and duplexes or whatever they put in, that it's getting, not a good street anymore. It used to be a residential street, and now it's pretty much a thoroughway and I'm worried, when you change over to commercial, I don't know what ends up doing on down the road there. Granted, that place, I don't know what happened over there, but that there's nobody in it. And then even the next place is, the guy, he's been sick, so he's hardly ever there. So then, it's going to open up more commercial straight on down Hoover, and then, at some point it becomes kind of unlivable, even no matter how you look at it. So that's my biggest worry is, the more commercial, and, it's bad enough having, the duplexes and apartments and, like that, because, once they started doing, and they keep doing more of them down there, everybody's taking advantage of that area. And it's, just creates more traffic, because that's really the only street out of that area to 13th and Central. So it gets heavily used, but I don't know what the alternative is. If they don't develop with that, they're going to put a duplex in there. So one way or the other, right? That's all I got to say.
Question for the speaker, Commissioner Blick.
I have a question for you. Recently, we over on Flora Street, we voted to approve that dog kennel that's just right on that corner. And then a lot of those new businesses are on Central Street. Do you see that going further into that neighborhood, it's gonna increase more traffic north, or do you think they're just gonna go up to that property and just stay south on Hoover? Or are you just more worried about that intersection right there?
Well, it's,
Can you return to the microphone? Thank you.
Well, there's still a lot of gravel streets around there. So, it's just naturally, anybody that's in that neighborhood, you're going to end up on Hoover, which, actually Hoover is a mile road, but, it's been treated as a residential all this time. And now after it got blacktopped in there, which I don't even know if it's wide enough for a commercial, but it's now, pretty much the main road through there that it, and I'm, like my drive comes straight out on Hoover. So it, a lot of times it can be difficult just to, I don't know how people like they live on Central or something. I got to imagine that's pretty hard to get in and out of there sometime. And that's what it's getting to be over there,
So do you think it's more of just a congestion you're concerned down on Central and Hoover, or more of more traffic that's going to be on Hoover up by your house?
Well, you're going to have both, the congestion, a lot of times I don't even go that way if it's, get the busy time of day, I'll actually go back the other way, because it's not, if somebody tries to take a left or anything, Central backs up right there too. They got all them lights down there. At one time I was under there standing, they was going to do something with Central and 235 intersection there to help relieve some of that, but it hasn't happened. So, and I don't know where that's at, but I mean, the commercial part of it is just, I don't know what could end up being over there. Yeah. Right now, he can have this, but once it gets zoned commercial, then who knows, what you could end up with over there. I don't know if they can, the next property, then you put in a bar or whatever, you know.
Okay, thank you. I think you've answered the commissioner's question and your time is up. So we'll call for the next speaker on this item and thank you for your testimony. Is there another speaker participating virtually who would like to speak on this item? I see something flashing. Can someone read? Do we have anyone participating virtually who would like to speak on this item? Okay, it appears not. So we have the applicant return, please, for rebuttal to the concerns you've heard expressed.
I'll be brief for you. As my opposition stated, Global does do a good job of cleaning up and taking care of their property. And yes, Commissioner Aldridge, the car wash could have been torn down a long time ago. This is our opportunity now with the new construction where it makes economic sense to take this down. We can clean this property up along Highway 235. We're willing to do the landscape buffer to help protect the neighborhood. You guys can make the decision you want to make about the additional driveway to Hoover, but we were trying to scoot it north and center it between lots, reducing the impact to the neighbors with that. With that, I will wrap up my rebuttal or answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Foster.
The driveway location, and I understand normally it's a good idea to put it where it is opposite a lot line, but the way the two houses across the street are laid out, those are what appear to be probably living room windows right there, as opposed to having it opposite one of their driveways where it would be opposite a garage. Is it possible to shift that driveway so it's not aimed straight at their houses?
We could move it to the north line of the proposed zone change if that location suits planning commission better.
I think it would suit me better, at least. Thank you. All right.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant at this point? Okay, thank you, Philip. Back to the commission, Commissioner Warren.
As I look at this, it's got to be either some type of residential or some type of commercial. And based on its location, how it backs up to Highway 235, to me, commercial makes a lot more sense than residential. So I would, I'll wait to see if somebody wants to make a motion. Certainly, I don't know which way to go.
Commissioner Aldrich had a hand up and then we'll go to Green.
Yeah, I just would like to say ever since they developed the flyover, I guess, to connect, to ease traffic, if you will, from that 235 and Central, which used to be a huge mess. Some of the configurations that they've done is ease that quite a bit. We're starting to see more traffic can grow again. And ever since that they did that flyover to get up over there off of Zoo and that area over there, and then they connected by paving, the Hoover all the way around to 13th Street, that amount of traffic has literally just increased because there are a lot of dirt roads there still, and people want to get off that and go over to Hoover. They even got signage there at Central and Hoover not to block the intersection. And unfortunately, a lot of people still don't know how to read. And, it is literally a nightmare to get in and out right there. I think this is going to increase that density. And if I lived right across the street from there, I sure wouldn't want that. But at some point, you got to take and consider the residential areas right there. And I think I just don't think, me personally, I don't think this is a good fit right there. And, during, the heavy traffic hours, you've got traffic backed up quite a long ways. so it's almost impossible to get it in right there. And I just, again, I just don't think it's a good fit.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. Commissioner Green?
I was just going to agree with Commissioner Warren's comments there. I would even consider what the applicant has said, that they would be willing to go ahead and make this a neighborhood residential or neighborhood retail district, allowing the 3 uses that they are planning on using there, as opposed to making it a commercial, general commercial. I don't have a problem with the 8-foot landscaping barrier either on that, as opposed to the 10-foot. Yeah, he did.
Yes, he said he could live with the neighborhood residential, which would limit future uses that were more intense. Commissioner Johnson?
This is a tough case. I mean, I understand why staff denied it. I mean, but very few places do you have a lot that's backing up to 235 and the amount of traffic, and especially with the on-ramp. I mean, it's one thing to be running down the highway, another thing to be accelerating to get up on there to beat somebody so they can get in. So I'm gonna support approving it with the agreements that they have made, just for that reason.
Okay. There are paving dollars that the city has set aside to pave more of the dirt streets without any assessment to neighborhoods. Do we have any ability to say, please look at this area so there would be more paved streets in that area as quickly as possible, or is that all mapped out already?
I believe that that's mapped out, and they prioritize that based on some metrics that they have in terms of, is it next to schools, and then also other populations, targeted populations. If you would like, though, what we can do is, again, take this snippet from the minutes and then share that with the staff that are working on this. If you're passionate about that, then you could always reach out to the individuals who have appointed you to express that, especially if you're a city appointee.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Aldrich?
For several years, I used to live in that Orchard Park area. For several years, I fought to get dirt roads eliminated out there. And I've always had the philosophy there shouldn't be any dirt roads in the inner core city, especially the largest city in Kansas. But unfortunately, the way things were set up, you had to have the majority of the property owners to do the petition. And the majority of the property owners lived out of the state and stuff like that, and they were rentals, and they weren't gonna do that. And a lot of duplexes and everything else has been built along Hoover, right there from 9th Street, matter of fact, all the way up to Central. And there's a lot of traffic there. And I know there needs to be something done there, and it needs to be cleaned up. And, I wish it was done years ago, but it hasn't been. If nothing else, and I'm not a big fan of duplexes, I like to see more residential go in right there. But at some point, you got to have a buffer. And there's a reason why staff made their recommendations to deny. And I happen to agree with staff recommendations, but, that's all my comments.
Yep, it's a tough one. Commissioner Blick.
I just have a question for staff. I noticed there's a billboard on that property to the south. Can they put a billboard onto the property to the north, or is it too close?
The way the protective overlay is written is that signs would be restricted to the NR district as well, which don't allow billboards.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Foster.
I think I'm ready to make a motion. Unless somebody else really wants to. I think we've covered this. I would like to move that the application be approved with the protective overlay and the exception. Let me finish. With the protective overlay as in the staff report, with the exception that on item 8, it'd be an 8-foot buffer, landscape buffer, instead of a 10-foot landscape buffer. And for the findings, I think we would need to say that the character of the neighborhood is in fact mixed use. and that the proximity to Highway 235 makes this an appropriate zone change.
We have a motion. Thanks for articulating that information. Commissioner Joe Johnson, are you still?
Yeah, second.
The additional, okay, thank you. We sort of thought so. Is there any further discussion at this point? Some very wonderful emotional comments have been made. Thank you all for weighing in. Let's do a roll call vote on this one.
Certainly. All right, Fox.
I approve, yes.
McKay.
Yes.
Green.
Aye.
Bill Johnson.
Aye.
Blick.
Aye.
Nix.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Warren.
Aye.
Aldrich.
Nay.
Williams Bay.
Motion passes.
Wait a minute, you didn't have Joe Johnson.
Oh, Joe Johnson.
Aye.
I know. It's the first time I tried skipping over the folks who
Motion
were
passes 10-1.
Joe Johnson.
Yes.
In favor.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We do have other matters. Item number 6, the 2024 MAPC calendar. Philip, will you quickly tell us about this?
Yes, this is not the time we're looking to have the calendar approved, but as we were looking into 2024 and we got to November and December, we realized there were some issues related to the weeks of the holidays. If you want to go ahead and put the slides up, Paul. So we just wanted some feedback from you, and then we'll be coming back at a later date to actually have the calendar approved. As you all know, we'd like to have our planning commissions on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month. Looking into November of 2024, if you'd done that, we would have had planning commission on the 14th and then planning commission again on the 28th, which happens to be Thanksgiving. And so in lieu of moving a planning commission to an alternate date, like a Wednesday or something like that, and possibly having quorum issues or even having quorum issues because it's a holiday week, we were looking to modify the schedule in November. Looking into December, 2nd and 4th Thursday would have been the 12th of December, and then the 26th of December, which is the day after Christmas, again, could pose issues of a quorum where we could have had it on that day because it is not a holiday, but we were concerned about quorum issues with folks traveling or even just wanting to give people a break of not having to come here the day after Christmas. And so we have two options for you, and I'll break it down this way. The options are either having 2 planning commissions in November and 1 in December, or option 2 is having 1 planning commission in November and 2 in December. And so the way the rhythm would work with this, let's go back to option 1 real quick. Okay, option 1 is the last week of October would be a skip week. We would have no meetings because it's a 5th Thursday. And then we would have a planning commission, or I'm sorry, subdivision on the 7th and the 21st, which is standard. That's a 1st and 3rd. And we would have 1 meeting on the 2nd Thursday of November, having a skip week, the week of the holiday, and then shifting planning commission to the 1st and 3rd Thursdays of December, being on the 5th and the 19th, having a skip the week of the holiday, and then resuming our normal schedule with subdivision in January of 25. Option 2, if you want to move to that, Paul, would be not having a skip week the last week of October, having a subdivision meeting on October 31st, shifting planning commission to the 1st and the 3rd Thursdays of November, having the skip week of the holiday, and then having 1 planning commission the 2nd week of December. Then very oddly, which we don't really do very often, having 2 weeks before resuming our normal rhythm in January of 25. So we're just kind of looking for a preference. We kind of talked with the chair this morning of possibly doing like a show of hands of one versus the other. From a planning, from our perspective, we're not heavily weighing on one or the other. We're just kind of looking for your guys' opinion where Both of these options have no meetings on the holiday weeks, which we thought was preferential for everybody. Just looking for a show of hands on, do you want 2 meetings in November or 2 meetings in December?
So Commissioner Green, I've made you hold off a couple times, so I'll let you go first with your comment. Do you have a recommendation or?
Well, are there reasons why we cannot have meetings on Fridays?
I think it's written in the Constitution of the United States.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. I think, if we could eliminate a lot of these issues if we were just, in November or December of 2024, we actually have meetings on a Friday as opposed to being on a Thursday. I think that would eliminate the concerns about not having enough meetings to conduct the business that needs to be discussed.
Philip, has that been considered or?
One thing to keep in mind is the city observes the day after Thanksgiving as a holiday. So in this case, that would not solve our November issue is I'm not coming to work that day.
You're correct there. On option 2, if we were to take the November meetings as you have them listed for option 2, but then in the December meetings, you could have the 5th and the 12th being meeting dates, and then you could have the 20th and the 27th being meeting dates, and you've met the ability to have the number of meetings that we would need to have to conduct the business that needs to be
So
conducted.
your suggestion would be to have planning commission on the 12th and then planning commission on the 27th, moving the last meeting of the month for planning commission to Friday, the 27th.
Correct.
We could still have subdivision on the 19th. And then just your suggestion is to move planning commission to Friday the 27th.
Commissioner McKay had an idea. Appreciate the idea. Commissioner McKay.
So my only idea is that we have a requirement of so many meetings a year. What is it, 26?
I think it's 24.
24. So if we meet that criteria, in the past, we've just always been able to work around this. I don't know why all of a sudden it becomes such a major thing.
Commissioner Foster.
I had intended to not speak on this because it really doesn't make any difference to me one way or the other, but I will say, we're people who come to these meetings aren't the only people who want to have some time off on the holidays. I think has there been any notable upset by developers because we're delaying their projects? I think they're in the Bahamas or something anyway, so they don't care. I don't care which one's picked. It seems to me using that 5th Thursday in October to solve our problem is a logical way. But in any event, those of you who have families and want to be home for the holidays, you decide.
We don't have to make a vote on this, but if I could have a show of hands, how many would prefer 2 MAPCs in November and 1 in December and skipping 1 meeting in December? That's option 2, where we'd have the 2 meetings in November and 1 in December. I think it's the one shown here. If you prefer that, please put your hands high. Joe Johnson, holler at us if you're still there. 2 in November, 1 in December. That makes 3 out of 11. How many don't care? Okay. Hey, Joe Johnson, do you care or not care? Okay. Okay.
I mean, this can't be the first time in history that we've had these days of the month at this time of year. So maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we may have had the same experience. So whatever we've done in the past is fine.
So it looks like you guys get to recommend, and we're probably okay with missing a meeting in the year.
Okay. And then we have 2 other quick announcements.
2 other quick announcements.
2 other quick announcements is first meeting in September 14th. So our next regularly scheduled meeting will be MAPC elections. Just so everybody is aware, as we will do a changing of officers in a sense at the beginning of the meeting on the 14th.
And I would like to note that generally the current vice chair is named to the chair, and we have vetted him, and he is very good at arithmetic and at recognizing people's names and faces at all times. Then I would also note that generally the chair and the vice chair alternate city and county. So Abdul was a county appointee, so identifying a candidate for vice chair for the 23-24 year will we would be looking for a city appointee. If you're interested, notify Bob Dewell or the staff. So city appointee for vice chair. That's all I had to comment on. Yes, Commissioner Foster.
Speaking of officers, I know I need to check the bylaws and find out how long I've been, and check my records to find out how long I've been chair of subdivision, but at some point we need to switch to somebody else on subdivision.
Yes.
Maybe not.
That's 1 year
Will
appointments.
also be in September.
All
Okay.
appointments have to alternate in
Good
September.
to know. All
Okay.
right.
Very good. Thank you. So be ready for elections. Next.
Okay, the very last one is we just want to introduce Brad Etherly. He's our brand new staff person who started on Monday. He is in current plans and we're very excited to have him. Came at the right time because our September 28th meeting is going to be a long agenda. So he's getting his feet wet and maybe diving in head first. So just excited to announce that he's here. And just want you all to meet him.
Welcome, Brad. He's stepping into a full load and he's gotten well introduced to all of us through the proceedings today. Thanks for sitting patiently. Commissioner Johnson.
You know, welcome aboard, but I don't want you talking to any developers or people that does plats because they'll try to hire you and we'll lose you.
Right. We're going to
Good
keep him
morning.
sequestered.
Yes. Aaron is gone to PEC, I believe. Commissioner Aldred.
Yeah, before we leave, we had a conversation at the beginning about making a motion or something about doing away with virtual. Thank you, virtual.
So you would like to add that to the next agenda, that would be a discussion? Okay, thank you. And could staff prepare if there's any noticeable change in public testimony since we've made the virtual options available? I think that was one part of our discussion. I don't know if there's a way to tell that. Okay, I'm not going to ask for it, but that's just a question. Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Is the recorder off?
No. As long as the
meeting by adjourned.
The chairperson can decide whether to add or items onto the agenda. So